Tango 1 at the top, we are at Papa Cuckoo. 10-4, Tango 1, you have control. Tango 1 copy. Stand by. Stand by.
Integrity, passion, resilience. That's what this place was built on. That's what our community is founded on. Don't act like the example, just be the example. This is the home of the greatest fitness community in the world. We're trying to create strong, able bodies, resilient to injury with a gas tank to get shit done. If there's one thing from this podcast, it's about taking immediate action, find the problem, fix the problem. This is your opportunity. It's either a hell yes or a fuck no. It's that simple. You're ruining the Tango 1 podcast. Now is the time to take action. Now's the time to do more and be more.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Tango 1 podcast. I'm your host, Tony Smith. Today, I am joined by my co-host back on the scene. He's coming from Toronto today.
Yes.
Casey Wright and Level 10 himself, Coach Cory V, a friend of the podcast and one of our frequent flyers. I think he's now the number one, the number one guest in terms of appearances on this show. Anyways, this show and every show are brought to you by Murray Insurance. So Carrie and Murray are the owners of Murray Insurance and Financial Services in Kingswell, Ontario. I slip that up every time. They are Southwestern Ontario's number one ranked yard insurance by their clients and owned by Garage Gym OGs, Ian and Kara. These guys are great people. They take pride in everything they do, and they have so many of the high standards that the Garage Gym Army has come to expect. They're experts in the industry. They have the best in customer service, and they focus on community all the time. These guys are right now doing something for Ronald McDonald's House. These guys do not stop. They're a one-stop shop for everything to protect you, your family, and your assets with the best policies in the industry. And they also have incredible rates, especially when you combine your home, auto, and other insurance policies together. Give them a call today or send them a text at 519-733-2331 or check them out online at murrayinsurance.ca. Let's roll. So this podcast is always dedicated to, getting you to do more and be more, but I don't think today is one of those days. We're just going to have some fun. We've never recorded an episode this late at night, and Casey and I did a little analysis and decided that when we sip on whiskey, we have some of our best chats. So we've all poured ourselves. I think Casey's got a rum. I got a whiskey. What are you drinking over there, Cory?
I got whiskey.
Nice. Casey, first thing I got to say is your background, dynamite. You're staying, where are you right now? Tell us where you are.
I'm in the premium suites in downtown Toronto.
Yeah, nice. Staying with
the new home away from home.
Staying with Joe Siddle, Blue Jays, the Blue Jays announcer. What do you call the guy who's in office? What do they call the guy who's back in the studio? Joe Siddle.
Yeah, he's just on the Sportsnet panel.
My boys think it is the coolest thing. Every time we because we have Sportsnet, we're not Jays fans in this house. We're Tigers fans with Joe's background. But we have Sportsnet, so every time we throw on the TV, it's got the Jays games on. And when he comes on, Miss Book's dad. They think it's the coolest thing, man. So you got to tell him that because he'll get.
I will. Out of it. I'll definitely let him know. And Cory's here. Cory's on the screen. His sleeves have stayed at home though.
Sleeves off. It's a good day, man. Nothing better.
Level 10 himself.
Hey, man, no sleeves, no problems, right? No problems, boys.
Cory, quick question.
Yo.
Was a little lazy on my workout the other day and thought of you. What is the go-to hype workout song for you in your life right now?
Oh, right now?
Right now, or your favorite in general?
Oh, man. That's shit right now. Is it chains? Ain't down to my dangling.
I did have a follow-up to that, and I was gonna say, what are the lyrics? Chain hang to my dangalang mean?
Chain hang down to my dangalang, boys. Oh, That goes way back, man. That's awesome.
That is good. Every
And
time
what-
we would be in the gym, or when we were in Indiana, I think that song played 30 times on repeat.
Yeah.
What's yours, Case?
Mo Bamba.
Yeah,
Always for a big
Mo.
lift.
That's so funny. Funny story. You guys know this because you were there. But we're in Indiana. We're at Jason Gussick. You guys all have heard him on the podcast. The West Side Barbell coach. You know, one of the most respected strength coaches. We're doing his charity event, and we all go there to lift. And me and Casey are about to make our big lifts. Actually, Casey's about to make his big squat, which is like a huge number for a guy your size. Would you hit?
I think 415 that
It
weekend.
was sick, man. It was sick. And I yell over to Cory, I'm like, put on Mo Bamba. And he puts on like la 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 bamba. We're like, no.
As I'm getting under the bar, all psyched, ready to go, I think I was like just about to unrack, waiting for the song, and then that's all that kicks in is da 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 bamba.
Besito, babita, babita.
We had to take a minute break in between there.
Yeah, you had to go through the whole ritual, get back under the bar. It was hilarious.
Yeah,
Hilarious.
you got to get into it, man. You got to get into it.
Is that your dogs? Is that the girls making noise?
Yeah, man, they're barking at something.
Oh, they hear my voice.
I'll shut them up real quick. They're fine. They're good.
So let's do this. It's ready to roll. What do you got today, Case? What are you thinking?
Today's topics. Two things. I know we always bring this up, you and I, when we're just hanging out, but few things we miss up all the time is some of your best memorable police stories. There's some things you tell me all the time, and I know you always keep them a little secret from Cory just to get his reaction. So just off the top of your head, kind of what's the most, doesn't have to be the craziest or most extreme story, but what's one of the most memorable police stories that stick out in your head?
Oh man, there's so many, and I'm glad you asked this because I do think we miss this on the podcast all the time. Because like the number one question that I get when I go to parties and stuff is like, "Tell me the craziest shit you've ever seen." And I know everybody always like maybe I've said it too much, but people don't want to ask that question anymore because like the triggers and whatever. But I think I've got to the point where I can now do this all the time, no problem. But yeah, man, I don't know. There's so many of them. So many. One of the ones that sticks out in my head, like memorable, was you guys know, like, because we're on here, got a couple guys who played football, and Casey, I know you played at the U, and you were down there in the West End playing, and you know we get exposed to everything down there. I always say that one of the biggest reasons that I was a decent cop was because of my affiliation to AKO football. And you know, there was guys who just grew up in a totally different world than me, and you know, a world that my father actually grew up in, like very low income, you know, multiple people living in one place. And it's just, you know, some of those guys grew through some hard times playing with them and then coaching there. And I still to this day, like my connections to those people, to those neighborhoods, it was strong, and it made me like a good cop. It also like gave me like a ton of information because I was somebody that they could trust to treat them fairly when they did run into bad situations. So one of those situations, I'm coaching, and it's my very first 3 months on the TAC team. So this is like 2004, man. Like I'm like 24 or 25 years old, and I get called in. So like when I got on the TAC team, you were still working part-time in patrol. So it's kind of like you're doing with fire case, like you're still like kind of like not really in, but you're in, you know, you are in, but you're not in with the guys type thing, you know? So you're hired, but you're not in, right? So I'm hired with the SWAT team, but I'm not in. And I get paid. This is how old I am. I get a pager. My pager goes off. It's like report to the room is the code that comes up. So the room is where we go downstairs, and there's a briefing. So just like we do for any job, with the garage gym, but with the SWAT team, any job, any gig we'd get, we call them work. Any work we'd get would be up on a board. Back in those days, it would just be a whiteboard. They'd draw it out, what we're gonna do, who the target is, where we're going, where the target is, blah blah blah, right? So I sit down, and I'm this weekend I was supposed to be gone coaching, but
Sorry, guys.
Of course, just mute him.
yeah, I muted him. So of course I can't go, right? Because I gotta work. So the football team, AKO Fryman's heading to London with the head coach, Mike Lachance, who was my receivers coach, is now the head coach. So, my spot's missing, but Mike can more than fill it. The offensive coordinator will take it over. And I walk into the room and I look, and the target, when the team leader, I'm just like a brand new guy, team leader starts explaining our gig, and he's like, this is the target. And I won't even say his name. And I look, I'm like, oh, fuck. So this guy is like our stud. He's a stud. He's a stud corner. And not only is he a stud corner, this kid was like the one guy who met me in the gym. I was the strength and conditioning coach and the receivers coach. This guy would meet me in the gym every freaking day to work out, to get better, because he was really determined to get better. But like a lot of these kids with like the low income and stuff, like, man, it just was what it was. Right. And he's going to do what he can do to survive, but he also wants to play football. So they're like, this is the target. We're gonna hit his apartment at this place, blah 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 blah. Any questions? So I'm like, you're not supposed to talk as the new guy, but I'm like, right, like raising my hand. I'm like, hey, he's not gonna be there. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, I coach him. He's our stud player. Today's opening day in London. So it's opening day in London. He's gone. They're like, okay, we're going to do the door anyway because he's supposed to have guns. So boom, we blow the hinges off this door, do the door, and the closet is full of assault rifles. Full. Nobody's home. It's full of assault rifles. So now, because of what we found in his apartment, he's wanted, right? Does that make sense? Like, right? He's wanted for possession of these guns because it's his apartment, and he's the guy named on the warrant. So the bus is on its way home from London, right? Like, I know the timing. I played there for so many years. I'm coaching. I'm like, the bus is probably on the way home from London. They're like, all right, Smitty, can you go grab him? Like, do this. Like, I'm like, I have a good relationship with him. I should be able to grab him and, make a non-issue of it. Well, I call the head coach and he's like, hey, Tony, he's so excited to talk to me.
To tell you about the win.
I'm like, where are you? He's like, oh, we just stopped at Tilbury. The guys are all taking a leak, and they're grabbing coffees. We're getting on the bus. You're going to be able to meet us for beers, the coaches after, right? I'm like, I'm like, well, and then he's like, oh, no, don't worry. If you got to work, you got to work. But let me tell you. And he's like, he tells me the target, and he goes, this guy had a pick six and returned a kick for a touchdown. What a game. So I'm like, hey guys, I'm like, Mike, you gotta keep this guy on the bus, man. Like, don't let him take off. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I gotta come lock him up. We found all these guns. He's like, no, you gotta be kidding me. So anyway, an hour later, the bus rolls into the old clubhouse, which is like torn down now at Central and Tecumseh, right behind Herman. And I show up, and this was like the one thing, like not the happiest day of my life for sure. None of this was happy. This is the guy that I really cared about. But I walk on the bus, and a lot of these guys, I think, because I was a cop, they really felt like they had a getaway pass. Because I really helped. I did a lot to help these guys to stay out of trouble, and did what I could to help them work deals and help them to do this and do that to stay out of trouble and check in on them. And I walked on that bus in my uniform, and guys were like, Coach Tony. And I'm like, sit down. And I walked right to the middle of the bus, told the guy to get up, and I put him in handcuffs. And I walked him off the bus. And as I walked off, I told the guys, I cannot help you with some of the decisions you make if you make them without talking to me. And I walked out that bus, and it was pure silence, man. It was crazy, but that's for sure one of the most memorable moments. And then it led into some even more memorable moments, if you want to go there.
That's wild. But isn't that kind of like, it obviously isn't a great circumstance, but isn't that a good thing? Like being a coach for the team and having this rapport with guys, isn't that probably from like, I'm sure from his perspective, a better way of that going down than him getting his house busted into, like SWAT guys surrounding him? It definitely is a more respectable kind of outcome to the situation, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's a tough spot to be in, but it's better than the alternate, I'm sure.
Now, Tony, I got a question for that. Like, that puts you in an uncomfortable position to put him in cuffs, but like to the job outside of even that story itself, like, were there times where you had to put someone in handcuffs, not really knowing them, but to the fact that like you kind of don't feel comfortable like putting them in handcuffs because you're kind of told to do it type situation? Do you know what I mean?
Oh man, yeah. Like there's so two parts to that question, I guess. Like, yes, that sucked putting him in handcuffs, and like to go with what Casey said, like, but it was the better part. And there's something like, let's call it the hood, for lack of a better word, right? Like that downtown hood where this kid grew up with, I mean, honestly, with zero chance. Yeah, I could tell you there was an argument. His mom actually ended up being somebody who called me repeatedly to like help to deal with things and help to resolve some things. I mean, one time this guy was trying to saw a guy's leg off in the middle of fucking Parent and Brant, and we had to go lock him up. And his mom called me to go find him, and not to find him, actually to turn him into me to make sure that he would go in without being hurt. But like, I mean, the argument I got with this mom at court, she was so mad at me for locking him up, and I shouldn't have said this. It wasn't professional. My response to her was like, I've spent more time with your kid in the last 2 years than you have. Like, how crazy is that?
Yeah.
That it's sad. It's sad in a lot of ways, and I don't know that that's all her fault, that she didn't, she wasn't off working or whatever. I just know that I dropped him off to an empty home all the time, and I know the kid was hungry. He was hungry, not just for success and money, but hungry, like actually physically fucking hungry for food. And that's a sad thing, that it happens in this city. And it's crazy that you can walk into a dressing room like Casey at the U. I maybe not here because they don't have scholarships and stuff, but like think about that in the States or wherever. And I'm a guy living in LaSalle. I didn't grow up rich, but I grew up very comfortable. And I'm sitting next to a guy who can't fucking feed himself.
Right. It is crazy.
It's crazy.
And that's one thing, like, I've always like kind of had my eyes open to that in a locker room, especially when I moved to Windsor. And it was like such a benefit to me is being able to be in a locker room with guys from all these different backgrounds and to really hear their story and listen and be a part of that, because it does give you a huge perspective when you're out on the road or doing whatever you're doing. It does lend that perspective as like people have fucking hard times in front of them. Right. And it just gives you that, like, treat people. You don't know what somebody just went through. Like, there's guys who, they're busing to school across town every day because they don't have the luxury to own a house on campus or whatever it is, or they don't, they're working 2 jobs after football practice because they're paying for their tuition or going out of their way. Like, it's incredible. And it's incredible when you see those guys make it and do something and grow. And so it's one thing. And that's when we had Mahari on, a lot of the stuff he's doing in the Glengarry area, like, he's doing some big things for his community, and it's great to see in the Windsor area.
Yeah, Mahari will tell you parts of these stories. Some of the things that happened in that AKO Clubhouse, man. Like, I'm walking in, there's a guy chasing another guy with a shovel, and the coach is screaming, Tony, get over here, he's gonna kill him. And it's because he stole the drugs that this guy was supposed to sell. I'm like, this is craziness, man. But it honestly, like what you said, Casey, I mean, it gives you empathy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, empathy and sympathy, 2 different things. And I think it created empathy. And to kind of go back to Cory's question, have I had to put somebody in cuffs that I didn't want to? I think so. None really hit me in the top of the head. I know you're a big fan of the Muscle Doc. You listen to the podcast there. One of the most upsetting moments in my career. And I can't speak for what happens there anymore. And I'm very proud of my Windsor Police heritage. My dad was there. My wife was there. All my friends are still there. I'm friends with from the top down there still. But the world has changed, and the need to cover your ass in any job, the need to cover your ass makes me sick. Like, you took an oath to do the right thing, and I could circle back to the story. There's a guy on a bus, a kid on a bus. He's not a kid, I guess he's a teenager, call him a kid. And somebody gets up with a knife. I think his mental health person with a knife threatens the bus. I might be butchering this story to this point. This kid, this brave young man, gets up and pushes the guy with the knife. He didn't cause him to pull the knife out. The kid had nothing to do with it. Gets up as just a good Samaritan, protecting the people on this bus. The exact thing I would want my son to do, that I would expect, both of you guys on this call to do. And pushes him. Guy falls out the side door of the city bus. The side doors, how they kind of just open. So when he went back, the motion sensor opens. He falls out, smashes the back of his head, and looks like he might, get away. And they wanted the guys on scene. Now, I'm a senior guy showing up late. I wasn't at the call until after, and they wanted to lock him up. And I'm like, we know the guy's name, we know who he is, we know this, and why do we need to do this? If we pull video later and all the stories of all these people on the bus who are don't know this guy, these are independent witnesses, which is a very hard thing to find in the world. Right. Independent witnesses who have no connections to this guy. If we find out that this guy is full of shit and this didn't happen, we can lock him up later. We know who he is. Why do we have to put this guy through this? And I there's no way I would have put cuffs on this guy. And this is one of the things that just said to me that the state of policing is not somewhere I want to be anymore. It's not that I don't respect those guys, that I don't understand why I understand why those bosses made that decision. It's just not something I wanted to be a part of anymore because of that. So maybe the biggest step towards me leaving that place was exactly that. And it's not because of those people. It's not because of their decision. Just because of the way the whole world has become. It's just it's a very sad place for me. That's the one part that really that upsets me still to this day.
Right. Because isn't that a little scary, in the way of when a situation's happening, whether you're a civilian or you're on the police force, is one, you're reacting to what you should do for the situation. But then now you're also having to think of what's the right thing to do. Now, what's the perspective of, or what's this going to be perceived as? How's this going to be viewed from the public? How's it going to be viewed from my superiors? And by that point, the situation's already happened.
Right. What do I tell you all the time, Case? Leadership is the burden of leadership. The burden of leadership is making the right decision despite personal consequence and without need or want for personal gain. That's the ultimate burden of leadership. And it is so fucking hard to do. I mean, I'm seeing that in the gym with COVID at way lesser circumstances. But it's something else. It's something else. I can't even really describe it. But that is it in a nutshell, man.
Yeah.
It's that. And I just hope that doesn't disappear from this world altogether. Go ahead, Cory. Sorry, man.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Quick, man. I just was thinking as you were saying that, and it was, it's funny. It's funny, and it's also got some negative, but a positive spin to it. And put myself in circumstance. I was in, let's say, an accident. Okay, and I was hospitalized. I'm not going to get into these details. If you guys want me to, I will, but I'm not going to get in details. But other than that, all I could remember was the fact that when it was all said and done, all I could remember and be so thankful for police, EMS, everyone who took care of me. And then when I was in that hospital bed, I was fine, I was breathing, but all I could remember and all I could felt was you know, I was just like everybody else. Like when you're in that hospital bed, you're just like, you know, the guy next door, the millionaire, the rapper, like you're hurt, injured, you know, fire, EMS, police, that's what we're relying on. And when I was in that circumstance myself, I'll never forget that moment, because it was just like, I was so thankful for fire, EMS, police. And I remember like weeks after, I was just like, every time I seen a police officer or EMS, fire, I always say that in my mind, I would say thank you. And I just smile, because I remember I was in such a bad situation and they got me out. And did you have any like stories where like people have pulled you aside and said, thank you for doing this for me type thing?
Yeah, man. Occasionally you do get that, and it hits home. And sometimes like there's some stories, like I'm writing my book. There's some stories you guys can read about them. I don't think I could ever talk to them or do them justice, where that has happened. Some very like pretty insane stories, to be honest with you. But what I can say from the civilian side of things, I don't think, and it's unfortunate, and it's not the police's fault. It's just so fucking impossible to solve or to get to all these crimes and get there in a timely fashion. When the guys broke into the gym, when they broke into the gym and they threw, you know, the middle, you know, we're fucking at the end of our second COVID. I was at my lowest already, and then walk in and find the fucking window out, and there's like weights missing. And then I get a call, and I'm like, whatever. Like, you know, this stuff doesn't stress me out. The breaking in doesn't stress me out. The coming into my place, you know, I've been there. I just checked the building. There's nobody around. I had to go, and I had to work. So I'm like, I'll call after. And then I got a call from the Windsor Police Dispatch, from the lady actually who was my dispatcher when I was there. She's like, hey, Tony, you know, it's Ann. And she was so happy to talk to me. I'm like, hey, like, she's like, you got broken into. I'm like, yeah, I fucking see that. She's like, I was gonna call you in an hour or so. She's like, oh no, we caught them. I'm like, what? Like, most people don't get that like closure, that satisfaction. Like, they got my stuff back. This guy sent me a letter, like, whether it was bullshit or not, he sent me a nice letter apologizing and paid me for the window. Like, most people don't get that on petty crimes, and like, I think that's something that's unfortunate. But like you just said, man, like, just makes me feel, you know, a lot better about things, and to know that at the end of the day, who am I going to call? I'm calling them, right? Those people who are doing so much for us, and it's pretty sweet, man. And speaking of like you know, we haven't announced in this podcast, we just did that, you know, CMHA 5K for the front lines. And this is why we do what we do on this podcast. This is why we do what we do. And this is why the gym does what it's done, is like, I just think the mental health of these guys who are out there doing with this shit every single day. And the next story I'm going to tell you guys, when we circle back again, you're going to understand like even more so like how crazy what they deal with is. And we're proud, like, you guys are both highly involved. Casey, you were massively involved in the founding of this event. The 5K for the front lines for the Windsor Essex County CMHA. 19 gyms from Windsor, studios too. We had yoga studios get involved, wellness places getting involved. $37,000 fucking dollars to go towards making sure people like me, like, this is what it all comes down to for me, is like, so that people like me who are good cops don't want to quit. You know, we need these people. We got to keep them healthy.
And it is, and now being in front of it more than ever. And I think that's something that's probably changed a lot from when you were even policing. Is back then it was like you kind of go and you talk to somebody once you start to feel, you know, like you need the help. Whereas now they're putting a lot of emphasis on first responders to go introduce yourself or go make a connection with somebody before things start to build up. Right. And that's one thing that I went through when I was going through our recruit class, was before you need help is when you want to establish that relationship, because when you need help and you're at that low, you're not going to then go to the 1-800 line. You're not going to then go looking for that chart of 10 people that you were given, you know, 10 years ago. It's establishing that, even if it's just to go introduce yourself, build a rapport. That's what this stuff. And I'm sure that's what the money for the CMHA is generated around, is the people that need the help, but also kind of building that forefront to get ahead of it. I think that's a big thing with
building the dam before the storm comes, right?
It's so easy to maintain the mind as opposed to, you know, rebuild it. And you're someone who could probably speak on that very highly, is as opposed to staying with it, just like you would in the gym, it's easier once you build that base to stay healthy and maintain the body, as opposed to get in the worst shape of your life and now try to get back to where you were. It's the exact same thing with your mind. Is if you can get into a good spot, or you are in a good spot when you start your job, to just maintain it. You know, shitty things happen, talk about it, chip away at it, build off of it, instead of let it build. And as your brain just goes through all that shit, now you have to climb out of this hole.
I'm having a teary-eyed moment listening to my little brother grow up here. Like,
but it's good. Like,
Casey, that is the exact analogy. So, I mean, you bench press, deadlift, squat, fucking get some cardio in for 10 years. Now you got forced to take 3 months off, you know, or go through a traumatic event like a surgery, you know, blow a knee out, blow a hip out, have something else go on with you. You're going to be that much faster to get back to your strength, you know, like, because you've built this foundation. So if, like what you said, I like, this is new to me. I haven't heard this. I think it's the best strategy ever. Like, because this is kind of what you did in the old school. It just wasn't official. It's like you found some people you trusted, you started to talk to them, you know, and then when shit went down, when the storm hit, the dam was built already. And you're able to, like, or like, you know, I always use the sailor analogy, like that Dave Hawes uses, like you know, when the storm hits, we just pull the sails down and you wait it out. Like, so if you've built that dam, you've built that relationship, when the storm comes, you could talk it out, you could figure it out. You're not bailing water out, right? Like I think that's the difference. And I'm so happy to hear that, because, you know, even up to 3-4 years ago, we talked to Pem, the chief of police, about this. Like, even 3-4 years, 5 years ago, like, that was not the case. And I think it's come. If anything good has come out of COVID, man, I think it's the awareness of mental health and of the relationships and checking in and blah, 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 right? Like, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but that's the case.
Definitely.
That's for sure the case. So we started with the guy that I played football with, and let me take you guys back for crazy. This is one of the craziest stories I've ever had. Interrupt whenever you want, like, tell me to shut up, or like give me a questions, whatever you got. But so this guy, you know, gets locked up for the guns, and now he's got to get back home. They want to treat him right, and I want to keep my relationship. Because in the hood, right, like, it's all about your word. It's all about, like, respect and all these things, right? So I'm the guy. I'm waiting for him when he gets released. I'm still his friend, man. Nothing changed. I don't agree with his decision. Empathy, not sympathy, right?
But you understand to a point why he got where he was.
I think I understand more so than most cops, right, of where he was, because I'd already been to his house. I've seen it, like, how he lived. I've seen these things. So I give him a lift home. And so I'm in his driveway, or his alleyway, and I'm talking to him and his mom, and we're shooting the shit, and we're making a game plan of how he's going to get back in the football field, how he's going to get back into the workforce and get over this troubles. Call comes in, and I'm like, remember again that I'm not the guy. I'm not the team leader. I'm just Joe guy, like Joe new guy, like you, Case, right now, like Joe new guy. You know, like, got a lot of, like, potential, but really no experience. Call comes in, and they're like, the detectives are at a house. So basically, this is what happens. I won't tell you the call. The detectives go to a house. They get a report of a missing woman. People say they haven't seen this neighbor in a long time, a lady. So they go to the house. They knock on the door. You know, you guys got to understand, too, these calls come in, like, 100 times a month. Like, it's not like a rare call. So you don't take these that serious. especially in some some of the neighborhoods that are a little bit wilder. So the detectives go up, they boom, 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 bang on the door, and both of you guys have met him. It's Striller, right? Striller bangs on the door. Striller, the guy with the equipment that we did. So Striller bangs on the door. Boom, boom, boom. Hey, sir, college comes to the door. He's like, hey, people are saying I haven't seen your wife. Can you tell us a little about this? Guy slams the door, closes the door, and he's holding it. And he's like, get the fuck out of here, just screaming at them, right? So then they're like, they don't have an authority to go in or really any need to go in. So they back up. And they're like, what the hell's going on here? Like, there's a lot of mental illness too, right? Like, you don't know what you're dealing with. And this guy starts hammering nails and plywood up on the windows.
Oh, fuck.
He had it that handy inside the house.
I don't know if he was waiting for this day or if he's like a doomsday guy, but this will like, and he has a ton of guns registered to his house. And I don't know, maybe they might have called first. Maybe that's what tipped them off. I have no idea at this point. This is like 2004. So, but on one of the boards, he actually takes the time to spray paint. My wife moved to Paris. And it pins it up. And so the detectives are like, oh my God, he just barricaded all the doors. Striller's an ex-SWAT guy, right? And he's like, well, we got to call the guys and like, what are we going to do? Like the guys are us, right? So he calls us in. So I get the call, but all the guys are in training, but I'm doing this like special detail, getting this guy home type thing, right? So I'm just a block away. So now I'm the new guy. So I call the team leader's like, oh fuck, Smitty, just go and set up. I'm like, okay, like I don't know what I'm gonna do. So I get there, and sure enough, as I get there, the guy's like finishing his nailing, closes the door, and the call's on. Like the fight is on, basically. I'm looking at this like, ugh. I've been a cop for 5 years, not on the SWAT team. So I'm thinking like, this is gonna be a long call. So it goes on and on and on, and the guy's supposed to have all these. This is back in the day. Remember, Cory, you got like hunter affiliations. Remember, you used to have to register long guns.
Yeah.
One of the good things about that was we knew who had guns. So he's got all these guns registered. So nobody wants to go near the house really, because obviously the guy's got something, a couple screws loose, right? What he's done. And we get all around this house. It goes on and on and on. And so being the new guy, and I'm not doing any cool jobs. I am holding a shield like in front of me. And if you guys can't see me, I'm like holding it against my forearms. It's a bulletproof shield. It's about, I don't know, the size of like a cupboard door. Like it's like, to like give an example, it's like a cupboard door that's bulletproof, but like it doesn't protect my ankles or nothing. Thank God I'm short, but these monsters behind me. So they're all standing behind me. I'm standing behind this thing, and I'm basically their walking cover.
Wall.
So yeah. So
the wedge buster.
Yeah. Case the wedge buster. The wedge buster on the punt return. No, the kickoff. So we get up to this house, and Striller's negotiating, and he's talking to this guy, and he's making headway, which is crazy in itself. And the plan is, it gets whispered in my ear, like I'm looking through this little window that they have on the shield, like this, like what are we doing? I have no gun in my hand, nothing but this stupid shield. So like, Smitty, if this guy puts 1 foot on the porch, that's gonna be like basically the team leader, and that's how crazy this job is. He's got to decide that when this guy has 1 foot on the porch, we have enough time to do something, like tactical advantage, take advantage of the opportunity.
Right.
So Striller,
hang on.
Go ahead.
So he's got his foot on the porch. Is that with tactical advantage? What, you mean you shoot his foot or something?
No. So the guy's talking to us through a closed door. Yeah, I didn't explain that very well.
So if he's
there's a porch. Yeah.
He's inside the house behind the door.
Behind the nailed closed door.
Behind the nail. But if he cracks that door, and the second he puts a foot on that door.
Exactly. Yeah. So Striller talks him into taking the nails or the screws out of the door. And now he's talking around the like front door, like, a heavy wood front door like everybody has. He's talking around it. And the team leader says to me, Smitty, if he puts his foot on that front porch, you're going to charge him. Striller's gonna pull. They're gonna pull the door,
Let's go.
charge him, pin him, and we're going in. So I'm like, all right. Like, what do I know? And it turns out this is.
You were built for this.
Yeah, I was built to be the shield guy. Short, stout. So sure enough, Striller's talking about, and you hear Striller so smooth. Like, there's nothing like listening to an old school cop talk to a bad guy, man. They're so fucking smooth. So Striller somehow gets him to step out, and he not just steps out, he takes 2 steps out, but the motherfucker's naked. He's buck naked. Why? I have no idea.
Yes.
So the second he gets his foot out, I feel like the classic, like, this is how SWAT guys operate. I don't know if fire does this, but they tap up, which is like, we're ready. So it like taps up our line, like, and I get the tap on the back, and it's like, whoa, and I bury this guy full out, like talking about football. I full out like office linebacker, Adam Sandler on The Water Boy. Boom, bury him. But he's now naked. And it's like, I forgot to tell you, this is like July or August.
It's like a dream come true.
It's so hot outside. And he's under me, and he's like, he looks like the guy that got smooshed, like on like Coyotes, the old Looney Tunes. He's like the guy smooshed under the meteor, and I'm pinned on top of him, and the guys are literally running over top of me to get into the house, and he's under me screaming like, ah, so sweaty. So when we get in the house, imagine you guys both collectively kept every newspaper, magazine, penny saver, Canadian Flyer ad ever, and stacked it in your house, in one house.
Big hoarder.
Like, out of control. Like, the things are to the roof, to like the ceilings. And there's tiny pathways like a hamster, a mouse or something would use, to the point where like we can't walk through square, shoulder squared. We have to go sideways. So we're like, and remember, we haven't seen this guy's wife, right? So we're going through this house sideways.
She's in Paris.
She's in Paris. Yes,
she's under the tower right now.
We didn't have the luxury of the internet back then to check if she actually got on a flight.
Did you guys know that he was home alone at this point, or
no?
Unknown.
And like, you're also assuming booby traps with somebody who's displaying these kinds of, the way, from talking to him, from watching him, like, for being prepared to pin the doors closed. You're thinking This guy's also booby trapped the house. So like, when I say running in, we're actually like stealthing in, we would call it. So moving slowly. So we're creeping all through this house, it's like, but you can't see shit too, right? So you don't really know what you're going to. So we get to a bathroom. We're on the main floor, and it's like an old school like bathtub. And in the bathtub is a ladder, and the ladder goes up to like a trap door type attic, like a little square. And in the bathtub is bleach, what smells like bleach. So it's bleach. So I don't even understand. So the guys look up, and now you're the new guy. Think about this at fires, right? This is the same. Spitty, normie new guy. Hey, normie new guy.
Go check.
Guess what's going on? I'm like, fuck. It's like, and the worst thing when you're a SWAT guy or a cop in general, checking an attic, like, you can't get up there with your gun first. Right. Like, your melon has to show first, or like at the same time, like you're a sitting duck. So I'm like, this sucks. So I try to climb up. I can't get through the hole of the attic with my gear on. So now I come down, take my gear off. I'm like, fuck, this sucks ass. So I have this like stupid little mirror. I'm like trying to like move around. This is before we had like, these days the guys, Odge and those guys would throw a camera up, drive it around. They'd be able to know. I have a fucking little mirror, like a pencil mirror, that I'm like twisting around trying to see if there's anything in there. So I climb in, and there's rat traps everywhere. And there's dead rats that have been there so long they're flat.
Nice.
Yeah, and there's books everywhere and a bed. So this dude was sleeping up there, and they come to tell me that the bleach was to stop the rats from going in the bathtub and running up the ladder.
Oh,
How crazy is that, right?
smart.
So
Wow.
search this place, still negative results. Back down the ladders. Now we end up in the basement. We're moving through the basement real quiet. And I hear one of the guys on the right and the team leader, they're like, "Oh, we got her. We got her. Smitty, we got her. Don't worry.
Uh-oh.
Come over and see this." Is actually the things. So I go over there. There's a couple of candles lit, rat traps again everywhere, a sleeping bag, and there she is. There she is.
Like-
So all that's left is bones, hair, and fingernails. That's how long she's been there.
That is insane.
Flat, yeah. So turns out that he left her there to collect her checks, her welfare checks or disability checks or whatever it was. Sad situation, but also like some crazy, like this is like on the regular. This is on the regular. This is one of 50 stories. This is what's so nuts of what people don't realize what it does actually take to be a first responder. Now imagine you like write your paperwork and you go to t-ball practice, or you come
Yeah.
home for dinner. like how was your day? Well, mine was okay. How was yours?
Busy.
Right? Crazy, right?
That is wild.
Yeah.
Man, that's nuts, Tony. Like, so here's the thing too, and I think of when you tell stories, I kind of knowing you as a friend and like always talking with you, Tony. I always like from your character, like, have you built? This is a question. Like, have you built the toughness around trust? As seeing like a lot of stuff like that out there, like, does it to build trust with you? Does it take a while, like to build trust with somebody? You know what I mean? Like,
Well, with a person, like a friendship.
well, just the seeing what you see, like you've seen a lot of negative out there. So a lot of lying, a lot of this. Well, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that, or like you see, bad things every day. Like, have you hardened in the sense of like, maybe this goes with mental health, where it's like you don't trust someone right away. Like it takes a while for you to fully open up or fully trust somebody, from seeing from your job in the past.
Well, yeah, that's a great question. But yes, it does. And like Casey's been there for a lot of that stuff where I'm like, that motherfucker over there. Like, I don't like that guy. I don't trust. Like, Danny like laughs at me, like, in all cops, this is kind of like a funny thing about cops is they sit in the back corner of a room. You got to have you got to be facing the doorway, back to the wall, like the most tactical advantage position in the room. But yes, like you're always like thinking like somebody is trying to take advantage of you. Like you're like, and how many times, Casey, has Danny been right? Remember
Danny-
the one hire we had, and
Danny
she's like,
spots it from like if your eye twitches a certain way, she knows it. But it's
like,
something
I don't trust that guy. I think
No.
this, and this, and you're like, and I was like, relax, it's not the case.
well, that's
she's bang on.
definitely, and it's something where like, yeah, it's the difference between like, oh, something's really wrong, where like I would look at it and just be like, seems a little weird, like quirky or off, but not looking at it. And that's something I know even you and I have talked about. Like we've met somebody and it's kind of like you can tell from maybe a policing standpoint or whatever it is, like your first instinct is like, don't trust them. Whereas I would approach it being like, let's see like what this person has to offer, all this stuff. And then it meets in the middle, right?
Yeah. Well, you remember Riley letting somebody into the gym before, and you're like, Riley, what did you do? Remember? And then like the next day, I put the bat behind the smoothie bar. She's like, what's this here for? I'm like, cause you idiot. Would you let this person in here yesterday without calling me? I'm like around
hours,
the corner.
He just wanted to watch me count the money.
Yeah. Yeah.
See, like I'm like that totally too. Like I'm very trustworthy right away. Like you can earn my trust pretty quick. Like I'm not like I'm like right away all in. But I know I was just curious with you, Tony, if you caught yourself doing that. And I caught as a friend and getting close with you, I kind of noticed you don't open up right away, and you're kind of like reserved for a while.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's a lot to do with a lot of things, probably, but yeah.
Have you felt a shift in that though? Because you've been out of policing for, was it 5 years now?
Yeah. No, 3.5, whatever. But yes, I have
So
felt a little bit of shift.
have you noticed a difference between, like, I'm sure probably at the end of your last shift, like it took a lot more to have a conversation with someone and believe what they're saying in like
Yeah.
certain scenarios, as opposed to now, especially being, a very highly motivated business owner, you have to approach people kind of with that like excitement and that like, I trust you because you're here to help and make things better.
Yeah, that goes like like I don't know. That's a real loaded like question, I guess. With the you've seen me, like I was so bummed out when Danny was right about that guy. I felt like that situation. I was like, God damn, man! Like I'm getting rusty. This guy pulled like the wool over my eyes. Like that wouldn't have happened 3 years ago. But at the same time, like on the other end of things, I think from business like standpoints, like a lot of times I'm just like I'm tell people like, you know what, you could fuck off. Like I don't care. I'm not doing business with you. I don't like you. I don't like the way it comes across. I don't like the way you come across. And you've seen me dump business relationship after business relationship based on that. And that's not thinking this guy's gonna like come and, stab me in my sleep. That's based on like just like I don't like with this guy. I don't like the vibe this guy throws out. I don't trust them. I will not deal with them. And that's like to me more important. Like making friends is way more important than making money.
But
And
that
to
is, yeah,
be my friend in an inner circle, you've got to like, it takes a bit, Core, like you said. It does take
that's
a
how you
bit.
want to build it too, though. Like your business model is on having people close to you and making an impact with the circle around you, as opposed to just bringing people in just for, growth or just for money. Like that's not what you're in it for. You're in it for, building each other up as friends and stuff, which is, I think, a better way to go about it, because that's when you're actually going to be happy with what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, like raised on that SWAT team, I can tell you about like, I'm the guy in the front, the bulletproof fucking vest. I'm the bulletproof vest for all these guys behind me. That's building trust. Like that, like they beat me down to build me up. They beat me down so that they would know that I would do what they needed me to do for all of them. And that's how I took the team leader position and the guys that I had influence on getting onto that job. And that's how I've taken the garage gym staff. That's how, and before there was a staff, there was the members. That's what I like. There was no staff before there was members. And that's how like the members have started too, right? It was like, I kind of beat them down, like not just physically, but like, I rip on people. I was people are not used to how honest I speak to people, I guess, with like, you're just not strong enough. Like, you're not, like, remember, I mean, Cory, you remember me saying, like, that's not, what was it? That's not asthma. You're out of shape. Like, stop saying this is asthma. You're fucking out of shape. That's the same thing everybody shows when they're out of shape. Like, people just kind of get used to that, and I think realize that like I'm not doing that out of like malice. I'm doing that out of like love and trying to build a relationship. And like, and now I think it's proven, like 300 something days closed, that we still have 200 something members.
Isn't that a good thing though? And I think that's what the gym's built a lot around, is like that honest feedback, but also like people need a challenge in their day, and people who have been a part of the gym have that challenge with it. Like I thought of this the other day, like imagine being in a career or a job where you do the same thing every day, but now you know it. Like you're a master at exactly what you're doing. So when you go to work from 9 to 5 or whatever the hours are, you're a master at that job. so you're never being challenged, right? You're never getting thrown curveballs because you know everything there is to do with that job.
Right.
And then if after hours you're going home to whatever it is, even with your family and stuff like that, as a mother, father, you become a master of that job, and you're never being challenged all day at all. So that's something I think that the gyms brought into people's lives, is that 1 hour of like, holy fuck, I got to learn something new. This is the challenge I need. And that gives them more confidence when they start to beat that, and gives them more energy and excitement for whatever's next.
And that like you need to become better. Cory, you remember one of the things that stands out with you when you were a new member, like you had one of the biggest deadlifts in the gym right away. And I remember like laying into you with like, I remember saying, cut this fucking bullshit drama out. Like, don't do this whole approach where you like stand up, get down, stand up. And I'm like, and you were like, I remember, you know, like the people that you're with, like, holy, what's this guy's like strong? Why is this guy being so mad? And it was like, that was out of a place of like honesty, and like, and what happened? You started lifting more because you weren't spending like 35 seconds approaching the bar and wasting all your tension and like your energy, right?
Yeah, it was just more like it's when you hear it at first, and I've hanging out with you, Tony, Tommy, ton, man, and like just like when you hear it at first, it's a shot to the ego, right? And you have to check it for a second. You have to really, it hurts, yeah, right away. It's fine, but after, just think about it a little bit and then move on. There's some value from what sometimes people say, may not necessarily maybe negative. There could be some value. So my listening skills have went up quite a bit being with you, Tony, and working at the gym and being a part of this community. Listening skills goes a long way.
And the next step is always to like pat you on the back, slap you on the arm, and like, so you deliver an honest. It's not a negative. It's not a negative if you're trying to help. And if it has backing, it's not like I'm trying to tear you down per se. Does it bring you down? Does it make you realize like, oh, what am I doing? Yes, but it's followed up by that. And that's what builds, and that's what keeps 200 and something people around, you know, is that like you truly care. They earned their spot in this place. They earned their spot to be taken care of, you know, and I earned my spot to them more so, right? By like, not just like being here for today, but being here for the long run.
Yeah, but Tony, on that right there, man, there's something I say to myself constantly. I heard this, and I swear I want to tattoo it on me or something crazy.
Do it.
Honestly, man, it's no one knows, no one cares on what you know until they know how much you care. So no one cares how much you know until they know how much you care. So I always say that to myself when I'm either talking to clients or just anyone in general. Like, when they know you care, you know, that's what matters, I think, truly.
Thank God. Go ahead.
And that's what makes like a good trainer too, I think, is somebody who can point out your weaknesses and spin it with an answer of how to correct that. Like, that's a big thing. Like you talked about too, Cory, with getting your ego hit. Like, if anyone approaches you, no matter what situation you're doing, if they tell you what you're doing wrong, right, or something you're struggling with, it hurts to hear, because you think you've been doing it right. You think you're strong in that thing. But if somebody as a coach comes and tells you that, and then teaches you how to fix it, and you start to see the results of it, that's what makes, I think, I've always thought that's what makes a really good trainer, is somebody who can tell you the tough things, but the truth, and now spin it into how to fix the problem. Right. And that's something that, Tony, you've always done, is like, with us, it's a little different. Like, in case you don't have calves, let's do calf raises. Right. That's me knowing, okay, this is my weakness. This is where we have to go from it. Right. But it's finding that with different clients, is saying, hey, your lower back's nice and strong. Your losing it a little bit in the glutes or the hamstrings, so let's work on that by doing this, is the same thing as me saying you have really weak glutes or hamstrings, so you should work on those, right? It's how you approach it and how you do that, and not just telling them their issue, is giving them the solution in the same sentence. That's what makes a good trainer. And also now knowing your client to say, hey, your issue's in your hamstrings, and that's what we should work on. So instead of this exercise that the whole class is doing, you individually, let's work on this. So next week you're up or above the class for that one lift.
Yeah, it comes back to empathy, like we talked about at the start, and being exposed to more and more people. I think that's where we kind of separate ourselves here at the Garage Gym and with Tango One Solutions, and this crew on this call is like that, man. Like you gotta be able to relate to people. Like, I don't know what it's like to be overweight, but I can empathize with that. But I'm not sympathizing, right? I'm understanding their problem, right? But I'm not like reinforcing their insecurities. And that's what it's always about. Like, we're here to make you stronger, to make you more confident, not here to reinforce your insecurities. So like, if you're like, I'm embarrassed to hang on that bar because I can only hang on the bar for a second. It's like, hey, you know what? I understand. I can understand that it must be hard for you to do that in front of all these people, but like, nobody cares. Get up there. They just want to see you hang as long as you can hang, and do it. And next week, do it better and better, better and better. And that's where this place is just kind of like, become its own, shell, its own little shelter, I guess, for people to like feel strong and feel empowered and to continue to train, man. And I hope that those experiences, those shitty things that I went through, help me to do that better, because I definitely, that's the goal. That's the goal, man, because a lot of people help me to get a lot better than I am.
And on that, Tony, like, man, I know we totally went off the rails here a little bit, but honestly, it's the process, right? Like, the reward will never feel as good if you don't go through shit, man. Like, it's the way it is. Like, in the end of the day, when you get to where you want to be, or whatever that is, that pull up or lose weight, or man, get stronger or whatever, get bigger, like all that grind and all that, get through it. Like at the end, like you're that much more happier because you did what you had to do.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah. So
absolutely.
I agree.
Well, boys, I think that is a great episode. Fucking a lot of stuff. I hope nobody gets offended by my stories, and we'll start to do these more often. I think, like, have a little fun, talk a little stuff, and share some things that people don't know, that people only see on TV. So thanks, boys, for jumping in, and good to see you, Case. Glad to see you doing well. Level 10, good to see those pipes out.
Thanks, boys. That was fun, man.
We only had one dog bark interruption today.
Yeah.
Sorry, man, the girls got to go, man. They gotta go.
Hey, people will love that. So speaking of guys who are improving and getting fucking way stronger, Cory, you took care of this guy last week while I was away. Seamus McCabe, 4 Leaf Renovations. Seamus is a carpenter by trade, but he'll help bring your team, your dream, and vision to life. Your team too, maybe. If you're looking for amazing, clean, custom, and on-time renovations, call Seamus McCabe at 4 Leaf Renovations, 226-346-1804, or go to his website, www.4leafrenovations.com, and fill out the quote and application form. Seamus is coming in tomorrow. Cory, you said you fucking made him so sore. So,
man, talk about a kid in Bosek. He's awesome, man. And talk about what I just said about, like, no one cares how much you know until they know how much you care. And like,
he made the big graduation, man. I gave him a large shirt last week. Case, yeah, baby.
That's a big day. That's a big day.
Got the large shirt. Super proud of him. Anyway, boys, check you later.
Cheers.
Cheers. Peace.
Now's the time to do more and be more.